you're talking about money laundering, it's not just one guy, El Toro Negro, whoever else. I mean, the network, the apparatus required to launder drug money is vast, and the people involved are billionaires and very powerful. And they run some of the most well-known banks in the world. I mean, Martin going in and working a money laundering case at that time, before everyone understood how they did it, and to that scale, was unprecedented and very dangerous. Because the cartels thought, like, cool, seize our drugs. You're seizing 10% of our drugs. That's just like
cost of doing business.
It's like being Target and being like, we write off 5% of our annual revenue just on loss.
Yeah.
Same shit. They didn't care, but they're like, all we care about is that the cash that we do get gets routed back to us untouched. And back then, it was mostly untouched because the banking regulations weren't up to snuff to how the cartels were doing it. And what Martin uncovered, he was the person to uncover it. All the literature about this that came from the Treasury or Customs or like FINRA or whoever, any regulatory body, any 4-letter agency or whatever you want to call it that started sending notices out to banks and, other financial institutions, all that came from this case.
Wow.
Because Martin uncovered the Black Market Peso Exchange.
Yeah, so that's one of the questions. What is the Black Market Peso Exchange?
This is how you launder money if you are a drug lord, right? You package up your cocaine. You send it to Miami, whether by ship or airplane or whatever. It gets to Miami. And your minions go out and they sell it. And they sell it for $20 bills, for $10 bills, for $1 bills, for $5 bills. Then you got a shitload of money. And it's street money. It's not nice, it's not stacked nice. It's just in boxes and it's a lot of money. It takes up a lot of space. So you can't move that money back to Colombia. 1. 2, you can't use American dollars in Colombia. You need pesos. 3, you can't go to a bank and say, hello, Mr. Bank, can you just give me Colombian pesos for this dirty ass money and thank you? No, you can't do that either. But you need to get the money into the financial system. Ideally in the above ground financial system because it's easier to manage. So how do you do that? You take the cash and you have what are called Smurfs. Smurfs are the lowest level of the money laundering ladder. Smurfs take cash in amounts under $9,999 and they go to banks and they swap the cash for cashier's checks. Now, why that number? Because banks are required to report cash transactions in excess of $10,000.
I was going to ask before even this question, was that regulation in place at this time or was it as a result of the smuggling? Sounds like it was in place at that time.
It was in place. This was the Bank Secrecy Act, late 70s. Might have been a Nixon thing, I think. Which was like an anti-money laundering thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it came from some sort of mafia,
something like that.
Operation, right?
Some mob-related stuff, probably.
Yeah.
But for the cartels, they're like, okay, bet we'll just do $9,999 every time. Like, who cares? Like,
yeah,
okay, duh. So anyway, then you have cashier's checks, and these cashier's checks are made out to shell companies in name only. They are normally created in Panama or Aruba or a host of other Central American countries or South American countries. They don't really do anything, but when you have a company name, you can have a company bank account. So the Smurfs have their stacks of cashier's checks, and then they get given to a courier. And this courier physically brings the cashier's checks to certain banks that hold the bank accounts for these shell companies. In Martin's case, all of the bank accounts used in this scheme or this apparatus that this one money broker and this one cartel used were based in Aruba. There were some other bank accounts in other countries, but primarily they were based in Aruba at one bank that was owned by a family that allegedly did business with cartels and the Sicilian mafia and just helped launder like proceeds for a lot of different people. And in this family was billionaires. And the courier brings the money, deposits it in the different bank accounts, right? Now the money broker sitting on the phone, like a stockbroker almost in Colombia, he gets a call from his courier and says, "All right, boss, the money's in the bank accounts. So East West Transnational Shipment Co. LLC in Panama has its money." So the broker picks up the phone and he calls a tire manufacturer in Italy. He says, "I want to place an order." Okay. "And I want these tires, these car tires, to be shipped to Colombia." All right. He pays for them in American dollars in cash. Then the tires are in his possession. They get shipped to Colombia. Along the way, sometimes to further muddy the paper trail, they stop at a free trade zone in Panama or another country, in which case the product can be repackaged, divvied up to different recipients in Colombia, and you can avoid paying taxes on it as well. Because when you enter a free trade zone, the designation of the good is changed. So then it can go into Colombia tax-free as well. And some of the products were actually smuggled in Colombia illegally, like cigarettes and stuff like that. But depending on the circumstance, a lot of time this was done above ground. And because the banks that were the custodians of the dirty money given to them through cashier's checks did not flag it as such, it could be used by the owner of that account to buy computers, washing machines, aspirin, car tires, cigarettes, whatever. The money broker would place an order for the goods, and we're talking millions of dollars worth of goods. Those goods would then make their way to Colombia. They are sold in the above ground market or the gray market, maybe for a little bit cheaper than full retail. And they would enter the above ground Colombian economy, and they were purchased in pesos. And those pesos, instead of going to, Transatlantic Shipment LLC, go into the cartel's bank accounts in Colombia, and the cartel has their money. And regular Colombian citizens now have access to all this cool stuff. Brand new washing machines, aspirin, car tires. The above ground Colombian economy was being supported, and in some ways probably still is, supported by laundered drug money.
What do you know what percentage of whether it's Colombia's GDP or even like the world GDP is laundered money? I've heard figures like 3-4% before. Does that sound about right from some of the research that you've done? Because I know it's not an insignificant amount. That laundered money is making the wheels turn for a lot of places.
Yeah, it's trillions, and like you'll never stop it.
Yeah.
But when I talked to Martin about this, because I wanted to understand the sort of financial implication of this system, because in the book, we learn about the Black Market Peso Exchange as Martin does. It's a drip, drip, drip type of thing. I don't come out as the narrator and say, "This is how this works." He learns it in real time. So you kind of understand the scope and scale of this. But certainly, as it was explained to him by cartel guys, if they didn't use this system to launder money, which is done through above ground manufactured goods, if they didn't use that system and that stuff didn't get into the Colombian economy, or even if they didn't do the whole drug thing, the economy would collapse. And the more that they laundered and the more gray market or black market goods that entered the Colombian economy, they are muscling out truly clean, white-hatted, above ground, purveyors and import-export people. Like the economy becomes even more over time reliant on the cartel's money laundering machine because it is propping up the economy. It becomes its import-export business, Not to say that the whole country is beholden to that, but again, over time, it becomes more and more and more. But to your point, yeah, I mean, the global narco trade is like trillions of dollars. All that money has to be laundered. It's getting laundered in one way or another. And the Black Market Peso Exchange was and likely still is the most effective way to wash dirty money.
Wow. It's, again, these guys can't be dummies to be coming up with this stuff. This is
Pablo
complex stuff.
Escobar's main accountant, Franklin Guajardo, went to Harvard.
Yeah.
These people aren't stupid.
Yeah.
They are, as you mentioned, they are running these businesses as if they're a publicly traded Fortune 500 company.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to give them credit in some ways, because to invent
Mm-hmm.
a money laundering apparatus like the Black Market Peso Exchange takes a lot of ingenuity and a lot of foresight. And it's just like, especially back then, like the amount of money that even the money launderers would make is just remarkable. Remarkable. They're making 12%. You know, the spread that they make against the traditional peso value versus the dollar, the spread they made, like cartels would pay it. You know, they're making 12 to 18% of a given cocaine shipment's street value. You bring in $250 million worth of cocaine a month, at least 25 million of that is going to your black market peso broker, who is going to make sure that pesos get into your bank account.
That's, I mean, we're talking generational wealth if you're doing that for a couple of years. Like, this is serious.
And I think a lot of the money launderers for the cartels back then, and the people that Martin had interacted with, they weren't maybe necessarily doing this as a lifelong thing. His source, a man named Tony, they kind of become like a buddy cop sort of thing, like the undercover agent, his source. You know, Tony was a legitimate accountant for many years. But it's like, you're not making enough money and the shit's right here and it's so easy. And it's like, I just need to use the same skills I have. And if I could do this for 5 years, I could make 50 million and then just dip.